The federal guidelines are oftentimes more draconian than their state guideline counterparts. And what that means in simple terms is like you could be charged with a state crime and that same crime in federal court and do far more jail time in federal court than you would in state court. It's particularly scary to be investigated by the federal authorities for a couple reasons. Probably the first is that they have far more resources that they can bring to bear on an investigation than a local state agency. The way federal agencies operate is there's just far less federal crime than state crime, so federal agencies are oftentimes better funded in investigating less cases, so they can do so more thoroughly. And then the second part of that is federal cases end up with higher jail sentences on par from a state case. Our approach is the same, whether it's a state court case or a federal case, which is to act immediately and act aggressively to preserve and shape the evidence in a way that's going to matter to the client at trial so that you don't have to go to trial. So probably one thing that makes us different than most firms is we leverage our trial experience to prepare every single case for trial. And what that does is that communicates something very specific to a prosecutor, which is that we intend to go all the way with a case. And oftentimes that forces them or encourages them to make favorable plea offers or other ways to resolve the case. This is a trial case. This was a case that came to me in a trial posture. He had already had 2 or 3 attorneys that told him that this case was hopeless and he wasn't satisfied with that. So he came to our office and he wanted to get our opinion on it. And this was not an easy case. So this is a case in which he was in possession of a large amount of a controlled substance and it was on his person. He had been involved in a domestic dispute with his girlfriend, and the police came and they searched him and they put him into the car. And then when they brought him back to the station and pulled him out of the car, they found a huge amount of a controlled substance in that vehicle. And then they charged him with an offense that had a mandatory period of incarceration, which was pretty high. And all of his previous lawyers had told him that he had no chance at winning at trial. But we took it to trial and we won. And the way we won this case is that we took a very detailed look at the evidence. And when you looked at the evidence in the body-worn camera footage, you saw that after the alleged domestic dispute, he was surrounded by like 5 or 6 officers. These guys grabbed him, they tackled him, and then they cuffed him and they searched him. And they found a lot of things, but one thing that they didn't find was a large amount of a controlled substance. Our approach to the jury wasn't that we're gonna explain to them how those drugs got into the backseat of our car. That's not our burden. That's the government's burden, and they can't do that. Now, I don't know whose drugs those were or how those drugs got into the back of the car, but we knew that it wasn't our defendant because he was searched by like 5 or 6 officers before they put him in the car. So we were successful in arguing to the jury, we don't know what happened and we don't need to tell you that. It's the government that needs to tell you that. What we can tell you is 5 or 6 guys searched him before they put him in the car and they didn't find a controlled substance. So, we're not here to solve a mystery, but that's how we know it wasn't him. And he went to a jury trial on that and was acquitted.